The organ system that I'd like to talk about today is the cardiovascular system. I found this to be the most interesting out of the reading that we had for this week. And overall, this system is composed of 3 layers that are present throughout all of the organs in this particular system. And there is the inner layer, which is made up of epithelial cells, which is known as the endothelium. Then there's the middle muscular layer, and then the outer layer is composed of connective tissue. So there are 3 different tissue types that we learned all present within this system. Then there are different organs present within this system. The main organ is the heart, which is in the center of our chest, and then there are also arteries and veins that are present, which help move oxygen to and from our heart and the rest of the body. So starting with the heart, this is composed of cardiac muscle, like we had learned before, and there are 4 different chambers. There's 2 atrium and 2 ventricles. The book mainly talked about the left ventricle because this is the largest part of the heart in terms of its function, being able to pump blood from the heart to the rest of our body, all of our appendages. And so in the left ventricle, the inner layer is very thin, and the thickest layer is muscle because, like I said before, it needs to be able to contract very forcefully to get blood all the way down to our toes or to our brain. And there's also, in this cardiac muscle, it's important to know that there are intercalated discs, which help to make sure that the cardiac muscle fibers all contract together so that there's no arrhythmias or anything like that. And then this layer is also highly vascularized. I think the muddiest point for me would be around here discussing the coronary arteries. I always, and I think a lot of people do too, tend to forget that the heart itself needs to be supplied with oxygen and nutrients. We always think that since there is blood located within the heart that that's good enough, but there are arteries and veins that go directly into the heart. And so always a refresher on that is really helpful. And then there's the outer layer of the heart, which is the epicardium, and this is where the coronary arteries are located, and they're within a layer of connective tissue, which is mostly fat in this case. I think it's also important to note that there are valves that are present within the cardiac or the cardiovascular system in the heart, and these are composed of elastic tissue, which helps stretch and return to shape so that blood stays in the correct chamber. It won't backflow and it won't leak into the next chamber without when it's needed. Then there are the arteries, which take oxygenated blood from the heart to the body. That's a little different with pulmonary stuff, but that's a general rule. And there are elastic arteries like the aorta, which are composed of a lot of elastin and a large muscle layer. This is because the arteries have a lot of pressure, and so they need to be able to expand and collapse with each pulse. As you go from the heart, the aorta, down through the body, we reach the capillaries, and this is where gas exchange occurs. And then as we go back, we're going to go through the venous system. And this takes mostly deoxygenated blood from the tissues to the heart. And this is a low pressure component, which means that there is not as much elastin fiber in there. It's mostly smooth muscle, and this is to help get the blood pushed back up from, for example, our legs to our heart. And these also have valves in order to stop backflow down to our feet, but that can happen. And then similar to arteries, the veins get bigger as they go back to our heart, and the vena cava is similar to that of the aorta. So that was just a quick summary about the cardiovascular system. I really enjoyed this week's reading.